Edward of Woodstock, later known as Edward the Black Prince, is one of the most prominent and intriguing figures of 14th century England. As the eldest son of King Edward III, he was the heir to the English throne and the kingdom's foremost military leader during the early stages of the Hundred Years' War. His victories, most notably at Crécy and Poitiers, made him a legend in his own time, while his brutal campaigns, especially the chevauchés through southern France, made him a controversial figure. Edward's life was a blend of military success, strategic acumen, and ruthless tactics that secured his place in history. Origins and background. Edward of Woodstock was born on June 15th, 1330, at Woodstock Palace in Oxfordshire, England. He was the eldest son of King Edward III and Philippa of Hainault, destined from birth to inherit the English crown. As the king's firstborn, Edward was groomed for leadership from an early age, receiving extensive military training and a prestigious education. His father, Edward III, was keen to restore the prestige of the English monarchy, which had suffered under the weak rule of Edward II, and saw his son as a vital instrument in securing his dynastic and territorial ambitions. The origins of Edward's famous moniker, the Black Prince, remain somewhat obscure. One theory suggests it was derived from the colour of his armour, which was said to be black enamelled. Another possibility is that the name came from the terror he inspired in his enemies, particularly the French, whose territories he ravaged during the Hundred Years' War. While the exact reason for the name is uncertain, it reflects his formidable presence on the battlefield and his lasting impact on medieval warfare. The Hundred Years' War and Edward's military rise. The Hundred Years' War was a protracted conflict between the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of France, rooted in complex territorial and dynastic disputes. The war began when Edward III, through his mother, Isabella of France, laid claim to the French throne after the extinction of the direct Capetian male line. This claim put Edward III at odds with Philip VI of France, who had assumed the throne, leading to intermittent warfare that would last over a century. Edward the Black Prince first distinguished himself at the age of 16, when he was knighted by his father on the eve of the Battle of Crécy in August 1346. This battle, one of the most significant of the Hundred Years' War, saw the English forces, heavily outnumbered, decisively defeat the French army through superior tactics, particularly the use of longbowmen and well-prepared defensive positions. Edward was placed in command of the vanguard, a remarkable responsibility for one so young, and despite a French cavalry charge, the English forces held firm. The Black Prince's actions at Crécy cemented his reputation as a courageous and capable military leader. The victory at Crécy had far-reaching consequences. It demonstrated that the traditional methods of chivalric warfare, which emphasized the role of heavily armored knights, were being rendered obsolete by new tactics that exploited mobility, discipline, and the deadly effectiveness of longbows. Edward's leadership in the battle helped shape England's military strategy in the subsequent years of the war. Following Crécy, Edward played a crucial role in the siege of Calais, a port city of immense strategic importance. After an 11-month siege, the city fell to the English in 1347, granting them a valuable foothold in France that would remain in English hands for over 2 centuries. The capture of Calais solidified Edward's role as one of the key military leaders in the conflict and set the stage for his further involvement in the war. The Black Prince's campaigns in France, plundering and destruction. One of the defining aspects of the Black Prince's career was his role in the chevauchés, large-scale destructive raids across enemy territory designed to weaken the enemy's resolve and economy. These raids were intended to demoralize the French population, disrupt trade, and devastate the countryside, making it difficult for the French nobility to collect taxes or support their armies. They were highly effective in forcing the French into battle under unfavorable conditions or compelling them to seek peace on English terms. In 1355, Edward launched one of the most infamous chevauchés of the Hundred Years' War. With an army of around 6,000 soldiers, the Black Prince marched through southern France, ravaging towns and villages including Avignonet, Castelnaudary, Carcassonne, and Narbonne. His army, moving quickly, burned crops, looted churches, and took valuables, leaving a trail of destruction across the Languedoc region. In Avignonet, the Black Prince's forces systematically pillaged the town, destroying what they could not carry away. This was part of a broader strategy of terror that aimed to break the morale of the French people and render the land uninhabitable for the French king's supporters. The devastation inflicted upon these towns would take years to recover from, with many areas left impoverished and desolate. The sacking of Castelnaudary followed a similar pattern. Edward's soldiers plundered the town, taking goods, gold and supplies, while burning houses, farms and granaries. The raid on Castelnaudary further demonstrated the Black Prince's willingness to use harsh tactics to secure military advantage. These chevauchés were not aimed at taking territory, but at weakening the enemy's resources and infrastructure, forcing them into a weakened position when peace negotiations or future battles occurred. However, it was Carcassonne, an ancient fortress city with deep historical significance, that suffered one of the most devastating attacks during Edward's campaign. Carcassonne's outer fortifications were too formidable for a direct assault, but the Black Prince's forces bypassed them and instead attacked the surrounding settlements and countryside. The economic heart of the region was effectively destroyed. The burning of crops and homes, combined with the looting of churches and monasteries, left the area impoverished and struggling to recover long after the raid was over. The town of Narbonne faced a similar fate. Edward's forces laid waste to the city's outskirts, burning warehouses, looting merchants, and taking hostages for ransom. The campaign in southern France not only devastated the local economy, but also sent a powerful message to the French nobility and peasantry. The English were willing to wage total war, and no part of France was safe from the Black Prince's reach. These campaigns, though devastating for France, were highly effective from a military standpoint. They forced the French into a defensive posture and sapped their ability to wage war effectively. The Black Prince's chevauchés played a crucial role in undermining the French monarchy's authority in the regions Edward attacked, creating deep resentment and fear among the local population. The Battle of Poitiers, a decisive victory. The Battle of Poitiers in 1356 stands as one of Edward the Black Prince's greatest military achievements. At Poitiers, the Black Prince faced a much larger French force led by King John II of France. Despite being outnumbered, Edward managed to secure a decisive victory through a combination of tactical brilliance, terrain advantage, and the strategic use of English longbowmen. The English forces, once again positioned defensively, held firm against repeated French charges. The French knights, weighed down by their heavy armor, were vulnerable to the quick movements of the English infantry and longbowmen, who inflicted devastating losses. The battle ended in a humiliating defeat for the French, with King John II himself captured and held for ransom. Edward's treatment of the captured French king, though respectful, was pragmatic. He negotiated a ransom of 3 million gold crowns for King John's release, a staggering sum that further weakened France's already fragile economy. The ransom negotiations that followed, coupled with the king's capture, created a political crisis in France and severely undermined the French monarchy's authority. Later years, decline, and legacy. Despite his military successes, the Black Prince's later years were marked by personal decline and political challenges. In 1362, he was made the Prince of Aquitaine, governing a vast territory in southwestern France. However, his harsh taxation policies and governance soon alienated the local nobility, leading to widespread dissatisfaction and unrest in the region. Edward's health began to fail in the late 1360s. Scholars suggest that he may have been suffering from dysentery or another debilitating illness, which significantly reduced his ability to lead military campaigns or manage his political responsibilities. Despite this, Edward launched a final military campaign in support of Pedro the Cruel, the deposed King of Castile, in 1367. While the Black Prince achieved a military victory at the Battle of Najera, the campaign left him physically weakened and financially drained. By 1371, Edward was forced to return to England, abandoning his role as Prince of Aquitaine. His declining health made him less involved in political affairs, and he spent his final years largely incapacitated. On June 8, 1376, Edward the Black Prince died, predeceasing his father, King Edward III, by 1 year. His 10-year-old son Richard eventually succeeded to the English throne as Richard II. Conclusion: Edward the Black Prince stands as a complex and influential figure whose life encapsulates the brutal realities of medieval warfare and the shifting dynamics of power during the 100 Years' War. His military brilliance at the battles of Crécy and Poitiers secured his place as one of England's most revered commanders, yet his harsh tactics during his campaigns in southern France cast a long shadow over his legacy. Towns like Carcassonne and Narbonne were left devastated by his chevauchés, earning him a reputation for ruthlessness and ferocity. Edward's early death in 1376 left England without its most capable military leader, contributing to the instability that marked the latter part of his father's reign and the eventual tumultuous rule of his son, Richard II. The Black Prince's story is a reminder of the fine line between heroism and brutality, between strategic genius and merciless warfare. His legacy endures not only through his military achievements, but also through the long-standing consequences of his campaigns, which reshaped the political landscape of medieval France and set the stage for future conflicts. Thank you for spending time with us through Spookscope today. Feel free to share your knowledge and wisdom in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. Until next time, my dear spooker, stay curious